how would you explain how the nomination process has been rigged?
Yeah, so the main issue is that the PCSC, which is the body that approves candidates to be Green Party approved candidates, you can run within the Green Party, but there's a process you have to go through in order to qualify for extra funding and now apparently ballot access too. Some of those hoops include getting signatures. Other hoops include being able to fundraise for the party, which is really benefited by having public appearances, which when the party, we know now from work that folks like Chad have done, was hosting unsanctioned party events where they would only invite Howie Hawkins to speak out of all the candidates. Which candidate is going to have the easiest time raising funds for a grassroots third party then if only one of them is getting that kind of boost preemptively? Mm-hmm. So there have been ways that part of the process has been skewed. And then the response that a lot of people have to that is, well, that just provides funding. But then you look at the mess of, like, was it North Carolina where it was only Howie on the ballot because right. Their requirements were different from the party.
And something else that came up that's sort of adjacent to that I thought was really interesting was when Mike Gravel was on my show, he mentioned how there was an email that went out in Mike Gravel's name asking people to donate to Howie Hawkins. And this was last September, so it was fairly early in the race. Turned out Mike Gravel had no knowledge of Howie Hawkins and didn't authorize that.
Something else I wanted to ask you about today was Howie Hawkins. Are you endorsing him?
No, I don't know much about him, and so I haven't endorsed anybody else in that regard.
Do you know who Howie Hawkins is?
Well, he sent me some emails, but I haven't read them. I've just been so busy with so many emails that I get. So, to my knowledge, no, I haven't endorsed him, and I don't know what he represents in that regard.
Okay, because there was an email that went out from your campaign or addressed from your campaign that was asking people to donate to the Howie Hawkins campaign. Did you know about that email?
No, I didn't. And you have to understand that my campaign was run by teenagers, and on a couple of occasions they can endorse who they want as individuals, but they don't necessarily bind me on any endorsements in that regard.
But there's several other things that have popped up along the way too, that I think have been raised. One is the party membership rule, where Howie Hawkins is a member of the Socialist Party USA and is actually their nominee, and if is not nominated, could be running against the Green Party. And,
he said he would even.
Right, and I think Andrea was even kind of publicly threatening that, right? Like, you guys better nominate us, essentially.
Oh yeah, I love that they lob around threats like that, but they're not afraid to say Jesse and our movement aren't real Greens.
Right.
Or a similar thing that they did too. Just yesterday, they told us to take our efforts and go get independent ballot access for Jesse. So the 8,000 plus people that have signed the petition to make him the Green Party nominee are now going to go run an independent campaign when your party actively has a petition going to get people to pledge to vote Green right now. Like it's pretty hypocritical to advance those kind of arguments and use not a real Green as a purity test to try and disqualify us from participating.
It's also funny coming from somebody who was a Democrat just a few years ago. So
yeah, right.
Additionally, there's the fact that Andrea herself was on the steering committee and working in the Howie Hawkins campaign at the same time. You also have two other steering committee members, Tony Nedge and Margaret Flowers, who are supportive of Howie Hawkins. I think Margaret Flowers was even in charge of the Draft Howie campaign originally. And then there's Kevin Zeese as well. He's not on the steering committee, but he has an influential role in the Green Party. So what do you think the end is here? What are these folks trying to do via Howie Hawkins? Why did they want to effectively be able to decide who the Green Party nominee is going to be?
Well, from the public statements that we've seen from folks going back, at least a year, we know that at least among some of them, they think that there's some problem with the image of Jesse Ventura, that they don't want it associated with the party. And it seems like some of them have a feeling that it's not right for him to have not put in the work of creating the party, was a statement that I've seen expressed by another Green Party insider before. So it seems like a lot of it was deliberately targeted to sabotage a late-stage Ventura candidacy, as if they were kind of planning for him to try and, they phrase it like waltz in there in the summer and claim the nomination. The reality is like it's kind of a pragmatic pitch to a party that seems frustrated right now. And there's been a lot of discussions between folks online where, I don't want to say that raising money for a candidate that doesn't plan on winning, sure does pay the salaries of the folks involved. But the cynic in me wants to say raising money for a candidate that doesn't want to win sure does pay for the salaries of the folks involved. Like, so there's like a pretty cynical outlook that you can have on the optics of all of this, which is just, I mean, if you run a candidate that doesn't want to win, where does all that extra money go? It goes back into the party. Where does that go? To fund the insiders who are supposedly promoting the party, right? So I can understand how people reach those conclusions. And, whether that's the reality or whether it's incompetence or whether it's ego, I think it's pretty clear whatever it is, it's getting in the way of a genuine progressive movement, using a party that's already established to promote progressive ideals. Most of what the Green Party stands for, a lot of people would agree with.